All right, today we're going to be looking at a front end on a Polaris Trail Boss 250. Now this is the 250 four-wheel drive. The 350 four-wheel drive is going to be the same, as well as some other models. So most Polarises have this kind of same style drive shaft coming out of the front. The first thing we're going to do is remove the drive shaft. Okay, so to do that, we're going to have to pull this shock here, as well as the knuckle down on the bottom here. So we've got to pull the bolt down here, pull the bolt up here. But we're going to keep that together for now. That way it can be in a spot where you can see. We've already pulled this apart. As you can see, this drive shaft came out of here, and it was actually kind of in pieces. So we just disassembled that, and then we are going to test here this magnetic coil for the four-wheel drive. And what we're going to do, there's two wires coming out of that coil, and we're going to use a multimeter here. We're going to check resistance between the two. And so you're just going to put one on one side, you unplug it from the four-wheeler, one on one side and one on the other, and you just check resistance. In this case, this one's going to be about 28. Now you're going to want to, and I can show you that there, you're going to want to look and see what the specs is on your four-wheeler to see if they're any different. Like I said, most of the Trail Bosses are the same. They should be in that area, but you want to check that before you replace it. Second thing we're going to do is pull the drive shaft off of this four-wheeler. We've got a spring pin is what they call those, and this one here is just about out, so I just pulled it out, but that's what it looks like there. And it's just basically a rolled up piece of metal that kind of springs out. Now what you're going to do, obviously this one's going to be all the way in there through that front differential shaft and then through your drive shaft here. So I take a punch here, and you just tap on that with a hammer until you get it. You don't want to get this stuck in there. It's a little bit challenging, and you've got to make sure that you have room on the back side so that this pin can come completely out. The angle that it's at now is about the best angle. Then when it gets close to coming out, when that other punch is too big to go all the way through, you can use a smaller punch, and by that time it's fairly easy to push out of there and pull that out. Now have the hub strut off of here and the spring off of here, and I'll continue removing that drive shaft. Okay, now we've got that pin off of there. Now all we're going to need to do is pull that off there. It's a splined end, so we've got splines on either side. We should just be able to pull it off. Now to go to the other side, I'll show you the other side. That way you know what we're looking at here. And then come back to this side. So we've got this other side here with the sprocket, and I've already pulled the drive shaft off of here. So to remove this sprocket, a lot of times you won't be able to get it off all the way. You can actually tap on this drive shaft. I guess in the position that it is now you can, but you can tap on this drive shaft and it'll push the bearing and drive shaft out the other way. And so use a rubber mallet so you don't bang up these threads. Pull this sprocket off of here. That way you can kind of see what we're doing next. This next spot, I'm gonna show you how to adjust the chain on here. And obviously we are not going to need to remove this to adjust the chain. You want to leave it on there so you know how tight to get that chain. But you've got a pad down here, and I'll make reference to that here in a little bit. So to adjust the chain then, you'll go, you can do this on either side, but there's a bolt that goes all the way through and clamps this drum here, this chain tightener, and kind of pinches that into place. Right now, that chain is as loose as it can possibly be, because it's as far back here as it can, because this is off-centered. So I'm gonna put this back up here again, and what I'm gonna do now, let's say we're gonna remove that drum. Okay, it's got this plastic pad on the bottom here, and a lot of times it'll have debris in there, some dirt, some rust. So you want to make sure you have something that can push that out. Now you're gonna grab an 11/16 and a 16 millimeter for this top. You gotta completely take this bolt out if we're gonna remove that drum. So the one bolt's clear down on the bottom here, or one nut is, and then you just pull the bolt out the top here. Just a longer bolt, just like that, on the back of the drum here. So next thing we're gonna do, and people have different ways of doing this. I'll show you how I do it. I feel like it's the easiest way. You want two punches And again, we'll take this plastic piece here and we need to push this out. Okay, push that plastic piece all the way out. And that's what it looks like there, just a small piece of plastic. And you could use, you know, if you lose this, use a piece of PVC pipe. It's just basically to keep that centered, as well as help that to spin easier when you're tightening that chain. So now what I do is take 2 punches, put one in each hole, tap them in there, not very far because it's aluminum housing. Okay, now what you do is take something, pry bar, anything, stick in between these and turn it. And sometimes it gets off-centered, so you kind of wiggle it a little bit. But what you're gonna do is, if we're pulling that drum out the entire way, there's one spot that's gonna line up how we want it. And that's gonna be right here where that plastic piece was, is gonna line up right here in this area. And that's gonna allow us to slide that drum out. So we're gonna take and turn it, and we can, to get this one loose, I had to tap with a hammer and a chisel, a dull chisel so you don't break this housing. Tap on the drum to spin it. Now that we're able to get it broke free, kind of get that debris out of there, you can spin it really easily. Now this is the same way, like I said, that you tighten the chain. So loosen that bolt up. You don't have to remove that bolt when we're tightening the chain. But if your shaft is right here, again, loosest place possible, you're gonna spin that shaft back, and that'll put more pressure on that chain. More than likely, you're gonna be working kind of in this area here. And your shaft may be up, kind of wherever that sprocket fits the best. So that drum will spin all the way around, and you can put it wherever you need to. But again, once you get over the point of center, it'll start loosening your chain again. So we'll spin that. Now we'll spin this drum and get it to the place where we can remove this. And right there it lines up. Now I can just take this, because it's loose enough here, I can take these 2 punches here and just pull this out. And that's your drum assembly there. That's your differential, that's your chain tightener right there. So that is how you remove that, tighten your chain, remove your drive shaft, test your magnet coil. Now the other thing, this is that magnet coil part of it. This is what you see inside of your front hub here. So this is where your wheel bolts on. We've got your hub here, and we've got your oil filler and your oil drain right here on this hub. So remove that, it's an Allen bolt. Remove that, drain the oil, and then we've got your all-wheel drive clutch here. And then we've got your wheel bearings here. This is the cap. It's demand for drive. So that is the front end on a Trail Boss 250, 350, and a couple other models.